The British and Irish Lions are world champions. I'm joking, of course, that's very flawed thinking. However, spoiler alert, Australia have gone to Ellis Park in Johannesburg and beaten world champions South Africa. Hello amateurs, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be here with you throughout the Rugby Championship and beyond, so hit subscribe to follow along. Now then, let's get into this one straight away. The South Africans picked a very strong pack for this, but there was some rotation in the backs. They've obviously very strong throughout, so when I say rotation, you know, it's 1A versus 1B, that kind of thing. A very strong looking side. Nick White was back for Australia after his 1 week international retirement, and James O'Connor was playing fly half for his first test in 3 years at 35 years of age. And I've got to say, this game mirrored a lot of his own fortunes, I would say, because he looked very out of sorts at the start, but grew into it as the game went on, and some of his passing would prove crucial towards the end. Now then, the story of this game is something else. After 20 minutes, I was getting close to turning the TV off and not even bothering watching the rest, because South Africa was so unbelievably dominant in this period. Every single facet of the game. They won aerial battles, which led them to get field position. Every time they ran the ball, they were making yards, either through the forwards tight or really accurate, fast, wide passing to get the backs in play as well. So they battered Australia up front, got the backs running out the back, and Kurtley Arendse was over for a try put away by Fassi in only the second minute. And this came from a real key area in this opening 20 minutes, which was the aerial battle, because Tom Wright dropped a box kick, which led to the start of that move. He dropped a box kick right from the start of the next kickoff as well, but for some reason, Fassi, I think it was, decided to kick rather than run in a very similar situation to the getting that first try. Anyway, 7-0. And then 10-0 shortly afterwards, as Marks won a turnover penalty for holding on, and Esterhuizen was over for a try after 13 minutes. And again, this is where the backs really sharp passing came into play, and Jesse Creel got on the outside of Nick White, who was quite often defending in those wider channels. And when the South Africans could pick on those one-on-ones, they got a lot of joy from it, and they did early doors. This was 15-0 after 13 minutes, and sometimes you get a lucky try or a bounce of a ball or something and you can race into a lead. This was 15-0 and absolutely thoroughly deserved. Australia changed their kickoff game after that. I was wondering during the Lions series why they didn't try and start winning some contestables to try and get some ball. Well, they did that with this third kickoff. They won it, but they went 6 or 7 phases. And apart from one carry, I think it was by Tom Hooper that went forward, the South Africans knocked them back every single time, and in some fashion. Harry Wilson got smashed back by Esterhuizen, and I think it was Van Staden as well. And the South Africans just looked so incredibly dominant. Relentless, in fact. It was a word used in commentary, and it was a word I was thinking. They were just non-stop, but also really good variation with their play as well. And this led to a try by Siya Kolisi, who picked the ball up at the base of a ruck, handed off Fraser, went right, went round, I think it was Nick White, and scored by the post of 22-0. And again, it didn't feel like those points weren't due. It felt like they deserved every single one of those points. As I mentioned, the variation, South Africa's forward play, they played off several different shapes. They played a flat 4 and they hit the third man several times, played off an arrow, and some of those pullback passes by the South African forwards were so sharp and timed so well that it really enabled the backs to play. They were looking unbelievable at this time. Also, along with that really structured play, they had some great unstructured play as well. So it looked like the South Africans almost had a free remit. If they saw a one-on-one that they fancied, then they would just run that line, get the ball and go. And there was a great one where Eben Etzebeth came back down the blind side to run straight at Jorgensen and make a absolute ton of yards. And at this point, honestly, like I said at the start, I was close to like turning off or zoning out at least, because it just seemed like it was going to be constant and there was no way back for the Australians, who for their part looked so leggy. I mean, they looked really tired at the start of this game, like almost immediately, to be honest. And it's not surprising in some ways with that barrage that was coming at them and no way of getting a foothold in the game, really. There was a chance for Australia though after 25 minutes when Nick White chipped over. The ball actually bounced in the 22. And it looked like one of the Australians was bound to get it on that bounce. Suoli, like from the angle of the TV, it looked like he ran straight past it almost, but the South Africans got out, but they weren't held out for long. Dylan Peach got over for a try after a penalty advantage when Ikitau just went sort of dancing back down towards the blind side. It was just like someone's got to come forward and tackle him. And he was just waiting for that moment. He read the game perfectly, got the ball to James O'Connor, looped, and then it was him who put Peach in over in the corner. Beautiful bit of play, but it looked like it should have been defendable. It looked like the South Africans were narrow in their defence. And this is going to be a theme of what happened here on in, because the South Africans seemed to come up a lot and James O'Connor seemed to find big old loopy passes over the top, which found wingers, and they made a ton of yards from that. Something seriously wrong in the South African defence in that respect. The corner flaggers weren't getting back to cut those men off. They weren't getting up enough to put enough pressure on. They're kind of in the mix, in the middle of trying to do a press defence, but not doing it well at all. Shortly after that, Khaleesi took a ball over the top of the line out, and Peach, I think, looks like a broken jaw to me. The way he just bounced up and then held his face immediately, it looks like Khaleesi's shoulder has hit Peach in the chin there. This is one that could have easily been a head-on-head contact and a potential red card referral for Peach, but there was, very close, but no head contact on Khaleesi. But these are the kind of collisions that we're trying to get out of the game. Nick Frost won a line out after 38 minutes, and at this point, it was like the South Africans had so much of the game that it felt like Australia needed to make the most of every ounce of every single chance they got if they were going to get back into it. Frost won a line out, as he did all day. He carried on his form from that Lions series. He's an absolute nuisance in the line out, so intelligent, and he's so liftable and graceful in the air that he's an absolute line out talent. However, the ball got passed back to James O'Connor, who kicked it all the way dead from just outside his own 22. And that's kind of like a real big swing in the game. So it went into half-time at 22-5. Australia had really struggled to get any foothold in the game at all. They had a couple of nice bits of play, but when they tried to move the ball through the forwards, they were getting knocked back. They were losing aerial battles, all these things. South Africa went for a couple of huge scrums, and they got one in particular where they rifled the Aussies back over their own second rows. But the Australians did hold out in a few other scrums as well, so it wasn't all one-way traffic in the scrums for sure. Australia needed a good start to the second half, and oh my goodness, they got it. Angus Bell on at loose head carried the ball. He is so difficult to put down as a loose head. He never accepts a tackle. He carried well, and then he got another ball which he put Harry Wilson through a gap past Oxen Che. He ran through untouched for 22-12, and it's just still a long way back. At this point, I was still thinking South Africa, if all things are equal in terms of the breaks of play, the aerial battles, all the things, everybody wins their own line-outs and scrums, it still looks like South Africa are the better side. It still looks like they're the more powerful and actually the more threat in attack as well. Wilco Lowe was doing a good job at breaking Angus Bell in a couple of scrums, and the Boks were charging. However, Tom Hooper won a brilliant turnover at a ruck about a metre from his own line, and there was going to be a little trend at this part of the game where the Boks had several chances. I think if they'd scored at this point, it might have put the game to bed, or at least put them in a position where they were going to go on and win. But that turnover, there was a couple of errors, a couple of knock-ons. Australia forced, I think, maybe another turnover as well, all in a period of this about 10 minutes. And it just kept them in the game. That famous Australian sporting psyche where they just did not die, because after 20 minutes, you could have been forgiven for rolling over, but not the Australians, no chance. And they were getting width with joy all through this time. South Africans narrow in defence. James O'Connor throwing big passes over the top. They got a kickable penalty, very kickable penalty at 22-12, and they went for touch. And I was thinking, God, you would want to be back within a score, wouldn't you? Just keep chipping away at the scoreboard. Maybe the pressure will come. And they lost the next two lineouts in a row. South Africa getting up and winning them against the throw. And after the third one, the Australians knocked on in the back play after that. I think it was Joseph Suaalii. So it seemed like they had three chances there to go and get a score and failed. And again, I was thinking, oh, God, it looks tough for them. For the Springboks, Damien Valemse was on. And my God, he's looking massive. Has he put on a lot of weight in recent seasons? Because he looks way bigger than the last time I saw him. But yeah, very thick through the hips, Damien. However, he could do nothing about what happened next as Manny Libuk faded across the pitch through a wispy old pass. It just came out of the left hand, not quite strong enough, floated over there. Joseph Surali, just with all his 6'4" or whatever he is, reach, got up into the air, snatched it. And man, what an athlete, because he looked absolutely gassed, yet he was still going away from those South African players that were trying to chase him. 22-19. Absolute wow. This is now very much game on. All of the momentum is changing this game. Suddenly the South Africans aren't looking as physically dominant. There's been lots of changes from the bench. Mass changes, and this game is right in the melting pot, and Australia are on the up. And again, it is those Australian outside backs that created it. Tom Wright, after a bit of scrappy play, the ball got knocked on, or there was a knock-on advantage anyway. Tom Wright straightened, went straight up the middle, handed off Jesse Creel, I think it was, and found a real... actually, he got the ball from Suarali. He threw a really dodgy pass. It kind of just came out all a bit wrong, floated over somebody. I think it was kind of half accidental, but Wright took advantage. He got Harry Wilson in for the try, and they're winning 22-26. And it just felt like everything had changed in the game, and it changed again immediately afterwards when James O'Connor threw the ball over the top of an advancing South African defence. Jorgensen caught it, rounded Manny Libuk. Valemsa was overcommitted on the inside, and within minutes, it's gone from 22-12 to 22-23, and game wasn't over, but it was a long way back from South Africa there to change all this momentum. It's got to be said, Manny Libuk's defence in the backfield was pretty average, to say the least, and it looked like Valemsa was tired. To be honest, it really looked like he was tired a couple of times when he was chasing back. McDermott made a break up the middle, as he did from his, customary bench spot on the wing nowadays. And quite comically, Nick Frost was way upfield and he was ahead of him. But Frost was obviously very aware that McDermott was running way faster than him, so started running forward before McDermott even overtook him. So that was quite a comical moment from the big second row. South Africa had a big chance in the last minute to get back on the board and get back within a score and give themselves a chance of winning this game. But the ball was knocked on after Esterhuizen went up the left-hand side. It bounced straight into Tom Wright's hands. Tom Wright went the length, beat Valemsa. Again, this is what I was saying when Valemsa just looked a bit tired. He didn't look like he was really zippy and really on in that defensive movement. Tom Wright stepped inside him with ease, to be honest. Scored the try. It's now 6-3, and that means a bonus point win away in Johannesburg for these Wallabies who were written off before the start of the Lions series. This is quite the story. Did you predict that? Did anybody predict this? Did anybody even predict Australia getting close? Not really. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Where did this game get away from the Springboks? Because they were in such control after 20 minutes. It was almost embarrassing. Genuinely, it was almost embarrassing for an international game, for a top-level international game, for it to be that one-sided after 20 minutes. But they let it slip. Australia hung in the fight, and fair play to them. They scored some outstanding tries in the second half of this game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and to join you there for a friendly conversation. What an amazing start to the Rugby Championship. It's now all up in the air because South Africa were massive favourites, and this is not a long tournament where you get many chances to lose games. You need to stick in it, so there's going to be pressure on from now on. Give this video a thumbs up way down there. It helps other great rugby fans just like you find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and don't forget to get out and play.